Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. Hope you're all doing well, and this video is going to be a little bit different. Basically, I had an exploded package of mica powder from Temu, so I thought I'd use this opportunity to create my own pigment paste and show you how to do it too, and hopefully get an amazing bloom. So if that's what you're interested in, let's get straight to it. So here we go guys, and you've got voiceover Andy for the majority of this video because I have had so many problems with my previous editing software, but this is the package. Looking at it, I think only one or two have burst, but I thought, do you know what, I don't like to waste things. I've managed to get my money back from Temu, so let's make our own pigment pastes. And I just thought it'd be a fun project. So I've got these mica powders, I want to use them, I'm going to go rinse them off in the sink and see what we're left with. So here we go guys, rinse them all off, and luckily only one had exploded. So I think I've got about 30 different colours of mica powder here. And the best part for me is they were free because Temu have credited me back because of the exploded one. So I thought it'd be fun to just create some unique pigment paste. So this is just a standard pestle and mortar. Again, I got this from Amazon, as well as the cosmetic plastic pots that I'm going to be using. In hindsight, probably don't get white. You're probably better off with a dark black colour or something like that, because it's likely to get stained, guys. But as I say, I'm going to put all the links in the description to these products, so if you want to try this project, you can do it as well. So these are those little cosmetic tubs, and I think they hold around up to around about 50 mil. I'm probably going to be making about 30 mil, I think, of these pigment pastes, but I just thought they're ideal. They're plastic, and they've got screw-on lids, so hopefully, even if I knocked one over like I'm likely to do, they won't. So just looking at the colours now, and one that I always use in blooms is gold and orange mixed together. You could call it Gorange. Maybe we can come up with a new colour name. So first one I'm going to try is just mixing some of this orange with the gold. So I'm going to take these tops off and then we can get started. Gonna also try and do a sort of purpley blue one, and I end up putting 4 different micas in this one, guys. But again, it's be as creative as you want, mix as many colours as you want, and get your own unique colours, which nobody else in the world will have. I just think it adds a whole new dimension to resin art, where you're mixing your own colours, you're creating your own pastes, and it's something different. So I think it's going to be a really, really exciting project. And then at the end, make sure you stay till the end, because we're going to test them out in a 3D bloom, and I'm going to talk you through that process as simplified as possible. So first thing I'm going to do is just get gloved up, get my respirator on, and then we can get mixing. Don't forget that PPE, guys. It is so important, especially with micas, resin, alcohols, things like that. You want to make sure that you are safe. So just going to get gloved up, and I'll see you guys in a second. So here we go, gloved up, PPE on, respirator on, ready to go. And I'm going to use one of these silicone cups to measure out the resin, just because I find them a lot easier to clean. So this is that Jiaochun Fast Cure resin that you probably saw me use in a previous project. To be honest, it is useless. It doesn't mix well, doesn't cure well, and I'm not going to be using it in any future products. But rather than wasting it, I thought it'd be ideal to use in a project like this, where such a tiny amount's needed, and such a tiny amount will actually go into my good resin. So I'm just measuring out 30 mil into one of these cups. Remember, only use part A or part B. Do not mix the two, otherwise you'll have a cured piece of resin. So now just pouring the 30 ml into the bowl. I don't know which one this is, if it's the pestle or the mortar. Don't know, let me know in comments if you know. But just pouring it in, and then it's going to be just about slowly adding these mica powders until I get a really thick, creamy paste-like consistency. So I'm going to go in with this orange first. I've got another one that's very similar to it, which is called Papaya, which is one of my favourite colours. And I'm going to go in with quite a lot, as you can see. Probably about 1/3 of a bottle at this stage. Now I'm going to add some of this gold. And I think when you mix the orange and the gold, as long as you don't add too much gold, it still stays a really vibrant orange, but the gold just gives it an extra shimmer. And that's why I wanted to mix this orange colour. And look at that mica flying everywhere already, guys. And I've not even started stirring. So again, prime example why you need to keep that respirator on when you're doing something like this. I'm just going to start off by mixing it slowly with a stick to try and prevent that mica from all flying out of my pot before I go to the grinding stage. And as you can see, just doing it quite slowly at the start, and then I'm going to sort of speed up as it mixes more. And what you're looking for is a thick, creamy, paste-like consistency. And again, I just want to take this moment to thank everybody that's joined membership as well. It is really appreciated, and it massively supports this channel, and it helps me keep on creating content. So I think we've got sort of 3 or 4 members at the moment, but I'm hoping to grow that. Again, every subscriber as well, you mean so much. So thank you very much for liking and subscribing. If you haven't as well, take this opportunity to like and subscribe. If you're watching on your telly, which most of you tend to, do me a favour, log in on your phones and just subscribe to the channel. It means you get notified of new content, but also it means to YouTube that you're liking the content that I'm putting out. And also thank you to everybody that's been attending those lives that I'm doing every Tuesday night, 8 PM UK time. It's been brilliant getting to know some of the community, and that's what I love about Resin. It is the community. It's about us all learning together. So if you haven't been on one of those, make sure you join us on the next one, which will actually be Christmas Eve, and we've got the Resonator joining us on that one. So again, if you can, it's just a bit of fun. It's on camera. You get to know the people behind the videos, and that's the whole idea. So again, thank you for everyone for tapping into those, and I'm so looking forward to growing the channel this year. We've gone over 7,000 subscribers, and I can't wait to keep growing it and keep growing this community with all of you. But enough waffle, back to the project. As you can see, I keep adding and adding and adding, and I think in the end I end up adding around about a full pot of mica just to get the right consistency for this 30 ml. So you are going to need to remember it has to be concentrated, because every time you use it, you're going to be mixing this with resin, which is going to dilute it down a little bit. And you want it to go a long way. So once I've mixed this, I don't want to have to mix it again for another year. And I think that is what you've got to remember, and that's why I add so much. I can't get over how much mica I can actually see floating in the air on the camera. I've never actually thought of it, because when I was actually doing it, I didn't feel like there was a lot of mica floating around, but looking at all of the glistens on the screen, I can see that mica is certainly floating around, and I'm glad I've got my respirator on. But there we go, guys. I'm pretty happy with the consistency now. I'm just mixing around that last bit of mica that I put in to make almost a creamy paste is what I'm looking for at this point. And as you can see, there's still a lot of lumps in it, and that's why you need to grind it afterwards. So you want it as smooth as possible so that it mixes nicely with your resin and you don't get unmixed pieces of mica in your resin pieces. So I'm pretty happy with that as a consistency. I suppose a thick double cream consistency is what I went for. And then I'm just going to use some alcohol, some spray isopropyl alcohol, and some wipes to clean these off as well. So I've just cleaned off the stick. Seems to come off pretty well. This is obviously the grinding part, and all I'm doing is starting off slow, the same as I did when I was stirring. I'm making sure that I can get rid of that gritty texture, and it sounds strange, but you can feel a grittiness in it until you've really ground down that powder to create a smooth paste. So I'm going to fast forward this so you haven't got to sit here watching me for about 10 minutes grinding the paste. And then we'll come back when I'm ready to pour it in the container. And there we go, guys. Pretty happy with that. Nice, creamy, smooth consistency. And it looks absolutely gorgeous, that colour. And it's perfect. It's the colour that I normally mix when I'm doing my blooms. And it's a brand new colour. It's orange. So, but look at that sparkle and that sheen and that shine. Absolutely stunning. So I'm hoping it looks like that as well when I put it in a bloom later on. And I probably did this for about 10 minutes, guys. Probably a little bit overzealous, but I wanted to make sure it's perfectly smooth, which it is now. And then all I'm going to do now is pour this into one of my containers, and it should be ready to go. And then I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol and some wipes just to clean this off, and then go with my second colour. Now with the second colour, I am going to fast forward through the whole process, so you haven't got to sit here 15 minutes watching me do it, but it's exactly the same. All I do is mix in 4 or 5 of those different colours to create a nice purple colour. And there we go. Pretty much filling that pot now, and it does actually almost fill it, because I did 30 ml and I think these are 50 ml pots, but I wanted it about 3/4 of the way full, which I think will last me forever, to be honest with you. So just pouring it all in, and I love the consistency I got. It was like a thick whipped double cream is probably the way to describe it, and I'm really happy with it. So all I'm going to do now is clean off this pestle and mortar and this plastic spoon after scraping every drop out, and then do the next colour. And there we go, that is the second colour, nicely mixed, and it's kind of this purpley bluish metallic colour, which I was really happy with in the end. So now we're going to test these out on a 3D bloom. And this is how clean I managed to get the pestle and mortar with the alcohol and the wipes. So again, you can get them reasonably clean, but again, just look at all of those different colours in there. I'm hoping that this is going to make my most stunning bloom yet. So here we go, guys, and time for the bloom. So I've got everything organised. I'm going to be using this sort of 8-petal, I think it's a lotus flower mould that I got from Temu because it's one of my favourites. Got all of my pots ready to the side, and my piping bags as well for the 2 colours and the white. Mixed up the resin, and it's just gone through the bubble removal machine as well to make sure that there isn't any bubbles in there. And it's around about 33 degrees at the minute, which is fine. I want it to get to 35 degrees before I start this. So around about 35 degrees should be about right for this particular resin. And if you're new to blooms, it is all about finding out the right temperature for your resin. It's as simple as that. You may have to experiment a few times to get it right. I've got probably 4 or 5 different resins and each one of them has a perfect temperature. With this one, I'm going to be using the Apex One Coat from justforyouonlineuk.com. I've had really good results with it in the past, and I find it's a medium to low viscosity resin, and therefore 35 degrees works really well. When I've used thicker consistency resins in the past, I tend to find that 32, 33 degrees works better. And when I've used thinner ones, it tends to be more like 40 degrees. So you've got to test it, you've got to play around with it and get the right temperature for your resin. I'm going to be using this Let's Resin Ocean White for my white pigment to create those petals as well. Again, I've had really good results with it, but in a future experiment, I'm going to be trying some different pastes and just seeing if it creates different results as well, because I think that'll be quite an interesting experiment. Don't know, let me know what you think in comments. So I'm just checking the resin again, and you've got to keep monitoring it. You've got to keep making sure that it's going to be at that right temperature. And this mould, as I say, it's from Temu, so it's quite cheap. I think it was less than £2. It is a very thin silicone, so I think you might get 10 to 20 out of one of these, but then you're probably going to have to replace it. Unfortunately, that's the downside with a cheaper mould. And I'm also going to be using this cocktail stick as well that I got from Amazon, and thanks to Tracy from Mini Scenes GB, I saw her using cocktail sticks and I thought, what a great idea. I couldn't get the plastic ones, so I got a metal one. And there we go. So this resin, as I say, it's should be up to temperature now, which is around about 35 degrees, 34, so about a minute to go. But the important thing to remember whenever you're mixing your resin and checking the temperature is the lower part of the cup is always going to be a little bit lower, and that's why I always like to give it till it gets to a minimum of 35 degrees, so that I know that even at the bottom, the lowest temperature is going to be around about 33. There we go, and we're at 35.6 on the surface, and at the bottom we are at around about, I think it's 32, 33 degrees, so we should be good to go. So I'm going to get cracking with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get my pots ready for those colours, and I'm probably going to do about half a pot in each of these, and I'm not going to need all of that for the bloom. But what I don't use, I can always put in some side moulds, which it's always important to have a few little drip moulds by the side of you to get rid of any spare resin you've got. So half a cup going into each of these, and then the rest I'm just going to pour straight into this bloom. And I find the easiest way to do it with this mould is to go around the petals and then just put the rest in the centre. And I didn't realise till now how hard it is to just do a voiceover rather than doing it live when I'm doing a project. But there are so many different background noises. I've had the bin men driving up the road. I've had my dog drinking out of his water bowl, tap dancing in the background. It is hard, guys. So respect to any of you YouTube creators that always do voiceovers rather than doing it live as you do the project. It's more difficult than it seems. Now I'm just going to get the bubbles out. As always, you will get bubbles form in the edges of these moulds. So what I try and do is go around the whole edge and then flick any bubbles into the center. And in this particular mold, they also try and get in the points of those edges. So just make sure you're getting them all. Flick them to the surface, and then you can get them with your torch. I don't like to use isopropyl alcohol to spray the surface of these because it can affect your bloom. And again, just try and stay away from the edges if you're using a torch, guys, because you can get your mold to sort of bond to your resin and then you'll ruin your mold, and it is expensive. I had a couple of stubborn ones, just flicking them to the surface, getting them with the torch, and there we go. That is pretty much bubble free. But it's always worth spending 5 minutes doing this, guys, before you start, because there's nothing worse than having a great bloom and then having 2 or 3 bubbles on the side that just completely ruins the effect. So now I'm just going to go in with 1 drop of this ocean white. Again, you don't want to make your white mixture too heavy. I think that's where a lot of beginners go wrong. You need a very small amount. Otherwise it's just too heavy and sinks to the bottom and creates those blobs, which none of us want. And there we go. I'm not going to be adding anything else to the white for this bloom. And now it's time to test the homemade pigment paste that we've just made. So this is going to be exciting just to see how it mixes with the resin. With your white as well, guys, you want it to be reasonably opaque, but you want it to still have an element of transparency. Bit like this, you can't really tell with this cocktail stirrer that I'm using. Normally I use a popsicle stick, and you want to be able to still see the stick through it. So it's almost like a semi-skimmed milk consistency is what you're looking for. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's going to be white enough for this bloom. So, white into the piping bag, pretty much ready to go. And all you want to do with your white, once it's in the piping bag, you just literally squeeze it down to the bottom of the bag and give it a twist. Make sure none squeezes out the back though when you're doing this. I've done that before and it creates a big mess. But there we go. That is pretty much ready to go now. So for the first one, I'm going to use this purpley colour, and I'm going to use basically what I would normally do. So I'm just stirring it around, and whatever's left on the stick is what's going to go into this resin. And we'll see if it mixes through nicely and if we get a good opaque colour. Which to me, I think we've got there. I'm really happy with that as a colour. But again, just making sure you mix it all the way around so that everything gets completely mixed. And there we go, straight into the piping bag with that one. So far, it looks like the homemade pigments are working, touch wood. And we won't know until we demold this piece. And there we go, purple ready to go. Always put your lid straight back on, because if you're anything like me, you will knock something over and it will go all over the place. So now for the final colour, that orange. And again, exactly the same, just going to stir it around, and then whatever's left on my stick, I'm going to put in. And again, we've got a nice opaque colour, so I'd say that at this point, looks like both of the homemade pigments look like they're creating a nice colour. And the great thing about using these cocktail sticks is you just wipe them off and then they're ready for the next use. So into the piping bag with the final colour. And that is the third and final colour ready to go. And the reason I use piping bags, guys, is I've tried it from cups before and I really struggle with it. Since I've started using piping bags, it's a lot easier. Here, this is where I tend to cut it, just where the resin meets that sort of air bubble that you get in the end of your piping bag. You've got to remember, when you're piping a bloom, you need to put enough in there to allow it to spread and to create those amazing petals that you want to get. Again, some people I think go too thin, and therefore it doesn't give it enough chance to bloom, and some people go too thick and just get blobs. I tend to aim for around about 2 to 3 mil as the hole. So I'm just going to snip it off, and if we've got the right temperature, it should just naturally drip out of the bag. I shouldn't have to squeeze or do anything, which this one I think is just dripping out gradually, so it's perfect. And I think that hopefully that means that we've got the temperatures right. And with this mould, I like to start around the edges, around the petals, and just create a couple of lines going around before I go in with a spiral. And I'm not the best piper in the world, guys, so don't sort of shoot the messenger. So I've gone around with that first line, now going around with the second. But remember, when you do this, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, petals don't look perfect. And now I'm just going around that centre with a spiral to connect everything. And there we go, first colour done. So the next one I'm going to go in with is going to be the purple. And again, just snipping the end off, pretty much same size because I want them all to be reasonably even for this bloom. And again, it's dripping out nicely, so it's ready to go. And again, just going to start by going around the edge and trying to go in between where I've gone. And then that way you should still get visibility of both colours. And that's why I've done the spiral quite wide as well, because eventually I'm going to be trying to get 3 different colours in there. As you can see, just going in the gap, creating the same sort of spiral design. If you overlap a little, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to tell in the finished product. There we go, so that's my purple, and now for the golden orange. So again, just going to go around the edges slightly differently this time, so I'm going on the inside triangle. Like so, and then I'm just going to go around in the gap again, trying not to overlap too much, but there's going to be some at this point because I've already got 2 colours in there. And then with the orange, I just decided to spiral it out a little bit further as well. And there we go, all 3 colours in the bloom. And as you can see, there's quite a lot spare, so I have got some teddy bear moulds by the side of me, which I'm going to fill up with that spare resin as well. But I'm just going to draw in the design now. and I want to pull in from every sort of angle where those petals are pointing in, straight into the center. I'm going to be using a silicone tool. Remember, at this point, you don't want to be scraping the base of your mold. You're just tickling the surface of that resin. And I'm really liking the colors at this point, so I'm hoping that it is going to create a nice bloom. And take your time, guys, don't rush this, and wipe off your silicone tool after every single time that you do it. Otherwise you're just putting excess risk of blobbing, in my experience, because you're adding that resin back in each time unless you wipe off that silicone tool. And you can already see those petals forming. And now what I'm going to do is pull out from the center of each one all the way out to the point of each petal. And it's such a simple design, but it works so well. And it creates some of my favorite blooms. I've tried lots of different techniques, but these are still some of my favorite. I just think they look so natural, so 3D, and look stunning. And you know what, guys, when you're doing this, play around with it. So some of my favorite ones are actually only doing it halfway rather than pulling them all the way through. And then you almost get two different petal effects in the same bloom. But for this one, I wanted to pull it out all the way from the center because I wanted all of those colors to mix and mingle together in the piece. Tiny little swirl in the center, just because I really like the way it looks. And there we go, that's pretty much it. Torching any excess bubbles off because you will have introduced a couple by adding the micas. And then we'll come back in 4 or 5 hours and put it back on. And as you can see, I've just filled up those teddy bear molds with the spare resin, but I just wanted to show you this bit because it looks like the bloom is blooming perfectly. And that is what you're looking for after sort of 5 or 10 minutes. If you get that result, it's likely that you're gonna have a good result on the front. The only thing I've got to do now is pray that we don't get blobs. So I'll see you in about 5 hours time, which should be time to put the back on. Hey guys, welcome back. And it's been about 5 or 6 hours, so this is cured enough to pretty much touch. So it'll still be sticky if I touch it now, so I'm not gonna, but that tells me that it should be okay to add the backing. And I've decided, even though the back does look stunning, I want to add a back to it. So I'm just gonna mix up around about 50 ml for this, I think. I don't think it's gonna need a lot. Just to try, and I'm going to be using just a standard resin. It's not a fast cure or anything because I'm not going to be demolding this piece until tomorrow morning. So I'll say it shouldn't need a lot. I just need enough there to hopefully create that back, which I think, looking at how strong the whites come out on the end of the blooms, providing there's no blobbing, I think we're going to get an amazing result here, guys. So I just wanted to put a back on it just to really make it pop, because looking at the edge of those blooms, I can just see the white has stood out really nice, which it doesn't always. Sometimes it's a little bit wishy-washy than that. So I'm really happy with the way that it's looking from this side, and I'm just hoping I don't have any blobs on the front to ruin the effect. But I think providing they're not there, it's going to be hopefully one of my best blooms. And I know I say that a lot, but actually I think every one I'm doing at the minute seems to be getting better, which I'm loving, to be honest, because it's taken me a while to fully get to know how to do the blooms and how to perfect it for different resins, different temperatures, things like that. So I'm really happy with the journey I'm making so far, and I hope you guys are too, and I hope you guys are trying it at home, and I hope you're learning something from this channel, because that's what it's all about. It's all about passing on whatever knowledge I've got, whatever's working for me, to you guys, so that you can hopefully replicate these results and have the same results. So again, just stirred this around for a minute or so. I'm not going to put this through the bubble removal machine, because at the end of the day I'm going to be putting black pigment paste in it. So that I'm happy is mixed. I'm just going to be using the resin dye black paste and putting 1 drop in there. And then you've probably guessed it if you're watching the channel on a regular basis, but I am going to add some silver laser glitter to this as well, because I'm loving that effect at the minute. And again, that's the difference between using a mica powder and a resin paste dye. The micas for me just gave too much of a wishy-washy charcoaly effect. And if I want to use black, I want proper black like that. So that's the black. Now the glitter I'm going to add is this Resin's silver laser glitter, and it comes in like 3.5 ounce jugs. Not jugs, sorry, pots, but I've been using it a lot, and it's strange for me because prior to this I've never really used glitter, and I feel like I've missed out. Look at all of those colours and that shine. So all I'm going to do is add 2 scoops, so 2 sort of level mica scoops to this black resin dye, and hopefully, as I say, hopefully that will give me a really cool effect. But again, look at all of those colours in that. It's almost holographic. It's one of the nicest glitters I've seen, and I've had glitter sets in the past, but I've never been tempted to use them until now, because wait till you see this. So this is just that black resin dye mixed in with the resin and that laser glitter, but look at that for a back. It doesn't get much better than that when you work with resin. That looks like a whole sort of cosmic universe, galaxy, whatever you want to call it. All of those different colours sparkling through that pure jet black. It is absolutely stunning. So here we go. I'm just going to pour it on and see what happens. And I don't mind if it does slightly dome. I actually prefer it if it does, because it saves on the cleanup afterwards. If it slightly domes, then you shouldn't get any sharp edges. And I've let go of the stick. Tiny bit more I think it can manage. There we go. And I think that is pretty much there now. Maybe a drop more in this one just to get it all the way to the point. Come on. There we go, and that is that. And I've got a little bit left over, so again that can go in my drip rabbit, which is now almost about half full. So again, always have your drip mold next to you, because you can get some really cool effects just by using up your spare resin. And actually some of these layered pieces, you know, just by pouring in your spare resin, they look absolutely stunning when they come out. I'll show you one in a second, but I'm just getting the last drops out of this, and it's mainly about this bloom, so that's what I really want to see have worked. And obviously using the homemade pigment paste, I'm intrigued as to what effect I'm going to get from that. And the other reason I'm moving to these silicone cups, guys, if you saw the last cleaning video, is these are so easy to clean. I'm going to leave this like this till the morning. There's a drop of resin still in there, and that'll just peel out. It's so simple to clean. So put him over here, or her. In this day and age, it could be him or her. But I'll just show you a couple of the rabbits that I've done recently whilst you're here. And this is just using that as a drip mold. Look at that. So cool. And that's just those different layers of leftover resin from different projects. This one as well. This one came out with a bit of a brain. But there's a reason I'm starting to use this one more for my drip projects as well, rather than my dragons. A, I've got about 12 dragons, and B, Easter isn't going to be far away now, so I want to get prepared with stuff that people might want to buy. So you can just see there, I don't know where, I think it came off my mould actually, but I'm not having that ruining the back of my piece. So I'm just going to get a silicone tool. I think it's just a little bit of dried resin. There, taking that out like so. And then all I'm going to do is torch this back. And then that's it till tomorrow. Get rid of those bubbles. Whenever you're getting rid of your bubbles, guys, as well, try and keep central. Don't go too close to your mould, because that's what can spoil it. And I'm going to come back in 5 minutes as well and do that again, just to make sure that if any bubbles have surfaced, which they're likely to have because this is glitter, and I've incorporated that into the resin, it will burn those off, because otherwise what you find is you get like a little tiny row of bubbles just in the center, which you don't want. So I'm going to come back in 5 minutes, torch it again, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for demold. Morning guys, and it is the next day and I am really excited for this one. Not done a bloom in a little while, and I'm just hoping it's turned out well. So these are the little teddy bears that we made with the homemade pigment paste. And I think they've come out really cool. That metallic-y orangey gold really stands out on them. And again, I think they'll all be slightly different depending on how the resin went in at the time. So they're going to be turned into either pocket hugs or key rings, I think. But a great way to use your spare resin up. And I think they've come out great. There we go. But yeah, they're so simple, but yeah, I think they make great little keychains or pocket hugs. So that's those. But let's get to the main event, because I can't wait to see this. And clearly the pigment paste has worked, guys, as well, because look at these teddies. We've got those lovely colours in there from that homemade pigment paste. So there you go. Now you know what to do with all your micas. So I'm excited for this, and again, this is one of my favourite bloom moulds, but I've not done one in a while. So I'm just praying that it has worked. And it's the daunting thing with blooms, you never know until you demold whether or not it has worked out or not. So here we go, guys. The back looks stunning with that laser glitter, and let's have a look at the front. Do you think it's worked? Wow, look at that. I think it's worked. I think that's very different to my typical bloom, and I think that was just because I pulled the whole petals out, and I love that. The white's a little bit stronger than normal. And you can just see the shimmer, so the purpley shimmer and that orange shimmer coming through. Lovely. I think that is pretty much perfect, to be honest. I love that as a bloom. So let me know what you think in comments. Again, the colours, I love the colour combination, and those homemade pigment pastes have really worked. So again, loving that, loving the colours on it. And I think it's pretty much a perfect bloom. Not too much of a swirl in the centre for those of you out there that don't like the swirl, but enough that you can see it. And I absolutely love that. That is what you call a 3D bloom. So let me know what you think in comments, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. As always, thanks to all the members, thanks to the subscribers as well. You guys are what makes this channel possible. And if you haven't checked that out with the perks, go to the channel homepage, click join, and you'll see all the perks of membership as well. So, but apart from that, guys, hope you've enjoyed this bloom, and I'll see you on the next one.